My son took the whole family out to celebrate his promotion. Everyone except me. His wife looked at me on her way out and said, "Don't forget to finish those leftovers in the fridge." I said, "Okay." Then I quietly packed my bags, wrote a letter, and left it on the kitchen table. By the time they came home, I was already 300 miles away, and the house they had been living in for 5 years belonged to someone else. My name is George. I am 63 years old, and this is the story of how I became invisible in my own home. And the night I finally chose to disappear on my own terms. My wife Margaret died 6 years ago. 37 years of marriage, 18 months of cancer. When she was gone, the house felt enormous and silent. 2 months after her funeral, my son Daniel brought home a woman named Vanessa, polished and deliberate. I tried hard to like her, but I overheard her tell Daniel one evening, "Your father seems very self-sufficient. It's nice that he can take care of himself." I told myself I was reading too much into it. That was my first mistake. When they got engaged after 8 months, Vanessa suggested they move in with me temporarily to save money for the wedding. I said yes. The house was too quiet. That decision cost me 5 years of my life. At first things seemed fine. I cooked, I cleaned, I helped wherever I could. But slowly gratitude became assumption. "George, we have guests Saturday. You'll handle dinner. The bathroom needs cleaning." I left the supplies on the counter. I kept telling myself it was temporary. I kept saying okay. I kept making myself smaller. After the wedding, which I helped pay for, I expected them to move out. But there was always a new excuse. Months became years. Vanessa rearranged my furniture without asking. Threw away Margaret's things in the name of updating the decor. When Daniel's car broke down, I paid $2,000. When Vanessa wanted a new sofa, I financed for $1,000 of furniture I wasn't allowed to sit on when they had company. My home, still my name on the deed, still my mortgage, my taxes, my bills, every single month. The worst part was watching my son forget who I was. He started introducing me as my father who lives with us, not my father in whose home we live. One evening his friend visited and said, "It's great your dad helps around the house." And Daniel just nodded. "Yeah, he keeps busy with the cooking and cleaning." I said nothing. Speaking up only led to accusations that I was being difficult. So I stayed quiet, said okay, and kept disappearing. Then came the night everything changed. Daniel came through the door glowing. Senior project manager, effective immediately. I felt genuine pride. "That's wonderful, son." He grinned. "Thanks, Dad. We're going to Carmine's tonight. The whole family." My heart lifted. That was when Vanessa walked in. Her heels clicked on the floor I had mopped that very morning. "Oh, George," she said softly, "you don't need to get ready. This is really just for immediate family. People who were actually part of Daniel's success story." I stood very still. "I'm his father." "Of course," she smiled. "But let's be realistic. You understand." Daniel was on his phone, completely unaware any of this was happening. Before they left, Vanessa turned back. "Oh, and George, don't forget those leftovers. The chicken should be enough for you. There's canned soup in the pantry as well. Much more appropriate for someone your age." Then the door closed, and the house went silent. I walked to the kitchen. There was the leftover chicken, in a container with my name written on it in Vanessa's careful handwriting, as though I were a tenant who might forget which food was mine. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Margaret and I had shared thousands of meals, where we had slow danced on quiet Sunday evenings. And sitting there, something inside me went very quiet and very clear. I was the help. The old man who cooked and cleaned and paid every bill and said okay and smiled. And for the first time in 5 years, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what that had cost me. What they didn't know was that I had been preparing for this night. For 6 months, it started the day Vanessa handed me a typed cleaning schedule and said, "I thought this might help you stay organized." In my own home. That week I called a lawyer named Robert Chen. My doctor had quietly referred me to him after noticing I had been losing weight and seemed stressed. When I finished explaining, Robert said, "What you're describing is a form of elder abuse." The words hit me like cold water, but they made something click. The house was entirely in my name, registered that way 32 years ago, and I had never added Daniel to the deed. "You have more power than you realize," Robert said. "This is your property." 3 months before that Tuesday night, I listed the house with an agent in the next county, showed it on weekdays while they were at work. It sold in 6 weeks. Closing was the day before Daniel's promotion dinner. So while they raised their glasses at Carmine's, I walked through every room of my home for the last time. 3 suitcases, only what was truly mine. Then I sat at the kitchen table and wrote the letter, "Daniel and Vanessa, by the time you read this, I will be gone. The house has been sold. The new owners take possession tomorrow morning at 9. You have lived in my home for 5 years. I paid every bill, cooked every meal, and cleaned every room while being treated as hired help under my own roof. Daniel, I raised you to be a better man than this. Tonight you celebrated your greatest career milestone with everyone in your life, except the man who made it possible. I am leaving you the apartment at Riverside Place. Rent is $800 a month. The furniture here is yours. Consider it fair payment for 5 years of free labor. George." I sealed the letter, placed it on the table weighted down by Margaret's old cookie jar, locked the front door for the last time, and drove away into the dark without once looking back. I arrived in Asheville, North Carolina, just as the sun rose over the Blue Ridge Mountains. This had been Margaret's dream. We had planned to retire here together someday. I was arriving alone, but that felt like keeping a promise to both of us. My neighbor Mrs. Harlow came from her garden with a warm smile. "You must be George. Welcome to the neighborhood." For the first time in 5 years, someone was simply glad I was there. I turned my phone on that morning. 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails. Daniel panicked. Daniel angry. Daniel crying. I deleted every single one, blocked both numbers, made coffee, sat by the window, and watched the mountains. When Vanessa tracked me down a few days later, she told me Daniel had lost his job, that they were struggling, that he needed his father. I felt that old pull of guilt, but I recognized it now, a conditioned response to a manufactured crisis. "Daniel is a capable man," I said. "He will find another job." Her mask slipped. "You're a selfish old man. We gave you purpose. Without us, what are you? Just a lonely old widower waiting to die." 6 months ago those words would have destroyed me. Now they felt like an echo from someone else's life. "I think you should leave now," I said, and she did. 2 weeks later Daniel's letter arrived, handwritten on legal pad paper. He said he was sorry, not to get me back, but because it was true. He wrote about our Saturday breakfasts, our fishing trips, about missing his father. He ended with, "I love you, Dad." I never stopped feeling it. I folded that letter and placed it with Margaret's jewelry. His words were everything I had needed to hear for 5 years. But sitting on my porch watching the mountains fade into purple in the evening quiet, I realized something unexpected. I did not need his apology anymore. I had already moved on. A year later he called. He had remarried. Her name was Jennifer. And then, Jennifer is pregnant. Dad, he told me Vanessa was gone. Divorced. I know I cannot undo the last 5 years, he said, but I want this baby to know their grandfather. And if you are not ready, I will wait. 6 months later, photographs arrived. A baby girl. They had named her Margaret Rose, after her grandmother. I stood in my kitchen for a long time holding those photographs. I put them in a frame on the kitchen table where I could see them every morning. Then I opened a savings account and began making quiet monthly deposits. When Margaret Rose was old enough, the money would be there. No strings, no conditions, just a grandfather's love. On my 65th birthday, I threw a small party on that wraparound porch. Friends from the hiking group, people from the community center, Mrs. Harlow. We ate cake and watched the sun go down behind the mountains, and no one made me feel like a guest in my own life. That evening, washing the last of the dishes in my quiet kitchen, I felt something settle deep inside me. I was happy, not the fragile kind that depends on someone else's approval. The deep kind. The kind that comes from knowing who you are and refusing to be anything less. Margaret used to tell me in those last difficult months, George, you deserve to be loved for who you are, not for what you can do for people. It took me 2 years and a life rebuilt from scratch to finally understand what she meant. But I was listening now, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, that was enough. If this story touched something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And drop the city you are watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this has traveled.